Hello my loyal companions, welcome back to the channel and to another complete rogue guide, today looking at Trench. As always, I'll be going over his weapons, abilities and perks. I'll then be going over an upgrade priority system so you know exactly what to buy when you're in game. And finally, I'll give you some playstyle tips to play him a little bit more effectively. If you do go on to enjoy the video or just want to see daily educational rogue company content, make sure you drop a like and subscribe to the channel. But for now, let's get into it. Okay, so I held off on this Trench guide just until the update because I wanted to see how the change to his tenacity removal in favour of helping hands would adapt his playstyle. And now that I've played with him for a fair amount of time, I feel a little bit more confident at giving you a good, decent, in-depth guide into how Trench is played nowadays. Trench is a defender through and through, built to hold down in a position, stop the hard breach, and slow down enemies on their approach to try and take the site. He's incredibly effective at this job and offers a lot of zone control and really can disrupt the enemy. You're going to find it very hard to breach onto a trench without the enemy team having enough time to rotate. So you have to play around his different kit quite well to make sure that you are actually able to get through him quick enough. Going onto his passive, which is called Gadget Up, what this allows him to do is have two gadgets. So normally when he buys either his active protection system or his gas grenade, he will get two of those as opposed to everyone else who would normally get one. This drives Trench to be very, very utility focused, which you expect from this zone control utility type rogue. His main ability is barbed wire grenade, and what this does is when you throw it down, it goes over a certain area and places barbed wire there. This can be destroyed by punching it, and the effect it has is it slows down enemies and means they cannot roll within it. It does not damage them to stand in it, and it does not damage them to break it, and it can be broken very easily with an EMP grenade, a normal grenade, C4, standard explosives like that, or as I said, just going through and punching it piece by piece. Whilst this can be easily broken, it's rarely the focus of the enemy team to be wasting utility to do that, but it is a very effective method at slowing them down, and when enemies are trapped in that barbed wire, not only does it give an audio cue for you to hear when they're in it, but it does really disable their movement and makes them quite easy to hit. And can really enable you in a fight as a Trench to get some picks off. Having looked at Trench's weapons, his first primary weapon is the HRM-30KS. This is a heavy powered assault rifle that does a lot of damage but with a very slow fire rate and quite a lot of recoil. As you upgrade this to tier 1, you increase the damage range, at tier 2 you increase the hip fire accuracy, and at tier 3 you suppress its fire and reduce its recoil. Now, this weapon is a massive hitter and a good option, but is not a favourable weapon at the moment given the current DMR meta. So going on to his second primary weapon, we have the MXR, which is arguably the strongest weapon in the game currently. It is a rapid-fire semi-automatic rifle, dealing decent damage at all ranges and having an insane fire rate that really allows it to win a lot of engagements. At tier 1 you increase its magazine size, at tier 2 you increase its damage range, and at tier 3 you suppress its fire and reduce its recoil also. Personally, the preferred weapon here is the MXR at the moment, but the HRM can be deadly if you're able to hit those shots consistently. Going on to his secondary weapons, his pistol is the Executioner, standard pistol throughout the game, a very solid weapon to have in your back pocket. At tier 1 you increase the magazine size, and at tier 2 you increase his hip fire accuracy and reduce his recoil. His other secondary weapon is the melee weapon Baseball Bat. This is your more swing focused weapon. It does 100 damage thrown like normal, but you cannot upgrade this. When you do upgrade it, however, you increase the lunge distance and then increase the swing damage at tier 2, showing it is more of this swung weapon rather than a thrown weapon in most cases. As I mentioned, Trench's utility is what really makes him and helps him become useful, and with his passive Gadget Up, he's able to have two pieces of utility, and this really helps as we go into the gadgets now. His first gadget is the Tear Gas Grenade, and what this does is you throw it down and in an area, it creates a cloudy green smoke effect that you can see through, but when you stand within it, it does disorientate your vision, remove your reticle, slow your movement and slow your turning circle, which is very disruptive if you are trying to move within it. This recently did get a nerf, but it's still a pretty strong piece of equipment and great as zone controlling because enemies don't really want to be walking through that if they're trying to make an engagement. His other gadget is the active protection system, which is your standard trophy system from other games, and what this does is it blocks an incoming projectile. It only blocks one, so when it is used, it is gone. As you upgrade to tier 1, you give it increased durability and also increase the detection radius, so it can pick up a little bit more in a wider area. And at tier 2, you're able to hold an extra one of these, which for Trench again will be 3. Going on to his perks, in the 4000 category, he has Berserker and Shredder rounds. In 6500 he has Helping Hand, which has recently changed and added in favour of Tenacity, which has now been removed from him, and he also has Bounce Back. In 10,000 he has Headstrong and Tracker rounds. In terms of which perks I think are most optimal for him, I think getting both bounce back and helping hands as soon as possible is really good. They're fairly, mediocre priced. You'll be able to get them at least one every round, and they really help his kit to survive a little bit more with that bounce back, or just to get some revives off with that helping hand, which I think sort of blends him into a bit more of a supportive role as well, which is where Trench is really well sat, because he has so much kit that offers him as a defender. Having a bit of kit in terms of his perks that offer him a bit of supportive role, I think is a good combo. And then for a bit more defense and support, he also has Headstrong and Tracker rounds, which I think are really good pickups, especially with the Headstrong change, so you can now repair that armor. Trench often does get into engagements where he is able to dip out of cover and then reapply that armor. Going now onto the upgrade priority system, I'm going to be letting you know the high priority things that I think you should buy in this order. The interchangeables, which are things you need to buy at some point, but you can mess around with the order. And then the low priority or situational, which are things you don't really need to buy unless there's a very specific circumstance that you think it might be necessary in. I also then have the rounds on the left, so you can see what round you're most likely to buy these items on in a standard game of Demolition. Going over the noticeable ones, then in round 1 you want to be looking at getting the active protection system pretty much every round. You could opt for the gas grenade, but personally I think the active protection system will give you a little bit more adaptability. The only reason you go for the other one is if you know they don't have a lot of lethals that they're going to be throwing at you that you want to block. In the round 2, you want to be picking up your primary weapon and then probably looking to get your other piece of gadget in the next round so that you have your core kit there. From there, you can look at getting the perks. Personally, I recommend getting a helping hand first. I think this change has actually given him a bit of a buff rather than a nerf. It does kind of add a higher skill cap with the removal of tenacity, but getting that helping hands early is a really good supportive role for your team, and you get really good quick revives probably by round 3. You can then look at getting bounce back, headstrong, and tracker rounds. I think getting his perks is a really good part of his kit. You don't necessarily need to upgrade the weapon immediately, and then from then you want to be looking at getting the upgraded gadgets. You want to be putting points in those, make them a little bit better, make them last a bit longer, make them detect a little bit more, whatever it is, and most importantly, get 3 of them so you are just a complete utility zone control beast. You then want to probably look at upgrading the weapon, and at any point you could buy the bat for a melee weapon option if you feel comfortable using them within game. Now though, let's go onto some playstyle tips to help you play Trench a little bit more effectively. In terms of whether he's best placed on attack or defense, I actually don't think he has a specific role. I think he's maybe set out as kit to be more of a defender. Obviously, that is his given role within the game, but he is kind of effective on attack as well. Not only because when you get the bomb site and you control it, he is then great at defending it, but also he has some utility that helps him push, or at least safely help your team push. Whether that be holding a corner that is generally quite dangerous but a really important position and putting down an active protection system, or just flooding the enemy with gas grenades so that they have to push off of the site and you can then push onto it. His barbed wire also offers a lot for flank protection and also offers a lot for choking enemies out of a corner that they may be hiding behind. If they're stuck in that, you then can push it pretty easily because you're going to win that gunfight with their reduced movement. One big tip I have for you for Trench, given the recent update, is to not be afraid just to put down your APS as soon as possible. You can reclaim them, so there's nothing wrong with putting it down just to be safe. Now with the change in the removal of tenacity, you cannot tank a grenade like you used to be able to, which was really forgiving. So you have to rely on your APS and you have to be good with it, and it's really raised his skill cap a little bit to make sure you are good enough with Trench to put down those APS and block those grenades, rather than just relying on yourself being able to tank it through tenacity. So do make sure you're using these pretty much as often as you feel like you might need to, because you can then reclaim them and move them into different positions should you want to. My next tip for Trench is to remember that you are a longer range rogue given your weapons, whether it be the MXR or the HRM. They are built for this longer range, not great at hip fire, although the MXR is still okay. You want to be playing angles, you want to be playing longer lines of sight, and you want to be playing choke points with your different utility. You want to be the one holding the sight, picking the best angle to watch the approach, and as they're trying to run through your barbed wire, or trying to run through your gas grenade, or just trying to breach you, you're able to get picks off with those weapons because they have such insane damage, but you have to be really accurate with them to output it quickly enough to get the down and actually have a better time to kill than other weapons. If you are finding that your barbed wire is being destroyed really easily, I would probably recommend that you try and play around with your active protection system and the barbed wire in the same area. Now, normally you would want them generally in the same area, but a lot of people do put their active protection systems really close to the barbed wire, practically in it, to stop different EMPs and grenades coming to destroy it. Realistically, the enemy shouldn't be able to punch it for free because you should be there to shoot them at that time, although a lot of times if they have flushed you out of position, they can then punch it on their way round. That is something that happens a lot. But if they're trying to just destroy it with grenades and you find this is happening often, put down your APS near it, make sure they can't, just so that you're not wasting that barbed wire, because it is a really effective tool for you to be using. And my final tip for Trench is for you as a player, you need to be in the most high risk area. You need to be the one who is on site, there to defend it, and going to the site where the team most likely are. You need to stop their approach. You need to not allow them to get onto that site, and whether that is the site that is just most important that you hold because it's so hard to retake, or whether it just be the site you think they're most likely to go to, that they've been going to a lot, you need to read that situation and go there and hold that site most effectively. And again, use your utility to the best of the advantage. Slow them down with the gas grenade, slow them down with the barbed wire, stop their breach with the active protection system, and save your teammates if they don't have tenacity. Make sure you're using your utility to the best of its advantage and you're there, right there in the fight. You do not want to be the person who's coming in late for a flank or coming in late for a rotate. You want to be there in the action at the start. You want to be the one holding the lines of fire, and you want to be the one who's calling out to your team for the rotate. You need to be there, and that is sort of one of the biggest tips I have for trench, and what I see a lot of bad trenches do is they're off holding one site that the team haven't gone to once, whereas their team are getting grenaded out on the other side, and that's kind of where you need to be playing around. Okay then guys, that takes us to the end of the video, and if you did enjoy, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. You can also come follow me on twitch.tv/RadtharGaming to see live gameplay commentaries, guides, Q&As, and tournaments and scrims. All the links you're going to need are down in the description below, but for now guys, I hope you have a fantastic day, and remember, be loyal, be brave, be relentless, and I'll catch you in the next video.